Hi.
Hi, Michelle.
What's going on? Oh, no, so nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, we've
Hello, Kim.
met before, right? Yeah, okay. I remember. A long time ago, though.
Yeah.
What's up, Sarah?
Hello from Node plus JS Interactive.
Oh,
Nice.
wow. Nice. I'm in the Microsoft San Francisco office. Are you in San Francisco?
No, I'm in Vancouver.
Wow. Yeah. It's so nice to be in an office. They have snacks and coffee
This is crazy.
and lunch. These people are so spoiled. I have to make my own food. I don't want to live like that.
That's funny.
Don't talk to me because it's only the Microsoft San Francisco office that has snacks.
Really?
Isn't that evil?
Oh my God, yeah.
I have to pay for my food up here in Redmond.
Ew.
I know, right?
Yeah. I don't know. You have to go to an office and you don't get free food and snacks. I don't know. Can't live that life. All right, people need to come here soon. I'm gonna ping everyone. Oh, somebody else already did.
I think we have 4 people who said they can't make it today.
Oh, really? Okay.
I saw an email.
We've got quorum though.
Okay. Let's
We have
start.
quorum as long as my battery holds out. I'm running on a too low a wattage charger and I've got 10%. So I'm hoping that I will not draw faster than I'm replenishing.
Okay. You're using Zoom and Slack though, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
so
not Slack, but
okay, that's good. Well, if it was Slack, I'd be like, see you in 3 minutes.
yeah.
Okay. I'm just
It's really Chrome that's the problem in the land of Google when you have 50 odd tabs open.
Oh my gosh, you are one of those.
Actually, 50 is a good day.
All right, who wants to be bosun? Is it me because I'm talking? I feel like it's gonna
Sure,
be
but I'll take notes.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Oh, wait, no. Tim's already
No.
taking notes.
No. If you want to do it.
No, Tim's doing it.
Tim, do you want to be bosun?
Not really.
Okay.
I was already signed myself up for note taker because people were chatting. So.
All right, cool.
Tim,
Sounds
do you want to take over if I lose power? How about that?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so let's just let's go ahead and start. Oh, actually, let's give Tim's like the rundown. I don't know if anybody else has. We do these meetings every 2 weeks. Bosun is just the person who leads the meeting and kind of takes us through the agenda and our project board. And then we have a note taker. Just like put your name down under the attendees list so we know you're here. And then feel free to add topics as you see fit. There's a steering private mailing list and a steering mailing list that's public. I think that's the basics. Those are the basics. Okay, cool. So we can just run through their project board, I guess, after we talk about the election. Okay, Joe, feel free to hit record now.
It's recording.
Auto records.
He cuts it off though, or cuts it.
Oh, got it.
Okay. Or whatever. Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, October 10th, and you are at the steering committee meeting. Today we're going to talk about post-election next steps and then go through our project board to see where we are and get status updates. So the election has ended and we need to figure out if there's any next steps for us. Does anybody have any thoughts?
The election people filed some issues.
Okay.
And we should probably put them on the project board for us to address. I think there was a couple of, I don't recall all of them that were filed. So we probably should assign a subgroup of people to take a look at the feedback from the elections committee and try to make sure that we address that for the next cycle.
Okay.
I vote we create a subgroup of everyone who's not here and they're in charge of it.
That sounds
I
perfect.
love that idea. No, seriously, let's do that.
Yeah, I'll +1 that one, Sarah.
Okay. So we need someone to take the agenda item of filing the issues to be added to the project board from the election committee. Do we want to just volunteer someone who's not here?
I can, since Jace has been helping us with the project board, I will have him do that.
Okay, sounds good. All right, cool. Let's just go through the project board. I'll share my screen in a second.
I actually had sort of one other meta question about the election.
Yeah.
So turnout was 50%-ish, if I remember correctly. Like, I think as a steering committee, we should decide like what's our goal. Like, that feels low to me.
Isn't that higher than the American population coming up?
By a lot.
Yeah, but the thing is that this is a link, right? Like Washington State has vote by mail and it's like 80%. So like this is like a link somebody has to put on. So I feel like the barrier is pretty low. I mean, I don't know. I guess the meta question I have for us to think about, maybe not discuss now, is like, what is our goal for participation? And should we consider having a goal? And if so, where were we at? And should we change this? That's all.
I think a part of this has to do with awareness and publication. We basically hurried up and we said, oh, we got to do elections now. We got to start everything now. And we didn't. Last time there was a lot of notification, because usually the best way to get broader participation in anything in this community is to have multiple PSAs across multiple channels that exist.
Paris actually gave a pretty solid rundown, and it looked like they were nigh unto spamming all the channels.
So, the way I look at this, Brendan, was like you either increase participation or the percentage of participation by decreasing the amount of people we give the right to vote to, which I don't know if we want to really entertain. I actually don't know if we have any ability to know like those that voted, how they mapped back to the DevStats threshold that gets set, to even know if that's like a meaningful signal or not. I don't know. I feel like a percentage is not necessarily the right way of tackling this.
If you just see percentages, it's higher than typical vote turnout in both the Apache Foundation as well as the OpenStack ones. So it's definitely, we are on the higher side at this point. I don't know how many people voted in the previous election, but I think this election we had a higher threshold.
I don't necessarily disagree with Eric. In fact, I think that's a totally reasonable question to ask ourselves, is like, maybe this is a sign that we should like make the criteria more stringent. That's a fine outcome if that's the outcome. I just thought that we should at least reflect on it. But I don't want to divert the discussion.
We could totally do some. We could totally do some analysis, because I thought that idea of like mapping the voters back to DevStats is really interesting, just to see like what actually, get an idea of like what actually happened, because you may have some really active people in the community who don't really care about voting, and that should be okay, I think.
Yeah, my only worry is that the mapping that we had for the GitHub email ID and the vote sending out, I think that might not have worked. So, but I don't know whether that's true or not.
There was an analysis in Paris's message that suggested there were 30 emails that bounced. They sought 36, something like that. They sought alternate addresses and were able to deliver on 20-ish of those. So we actually got really good coverage. Now, whether or not that's your primary email address or a capture email address or what is a whole different question, but we got bounces from a small number, and then we were able to remedy most of that number. Oh, I'm glad I read Paris's email.
You know what I totally forgot? Dims, you want to introduce yourself?
Welcome, Dims.
Hi, my nickname is Dims. My longer name is Davanam Srinivas. I'm from India, I came to US a long time ago. Now I live in Boston, work for Huawei. Earlier I used to work for IBM, some startup, and then lots of employers over a period of time. So yeah, nice to be here. I've been doing open source working with open source for a long time. Apache Software Foundation first, and then OpenStack Foundation, and now here. So been around the block a little bit. So you will constantly hear me say, okay, this is how somebody else does this. So
That's so awesome. We really need that.
thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it sounds like we should maybe bubble up some of these concerns to the election committee and kind
I
of see
think
what they
we
have to
should-
say.
Yeah, we should probably also read over the election summary more closely that Paris sent, because I think some of our questions are answered in there before we go back to ask. So I
Okay.
think it's worth it.
Okay, cool. Let's
But I also think that as a meta point, like we need to have a goal.
Yes.
Like collectively, the steering committee needs to decide what the goal is. So it's great to have the analysis, but we need to figure out what we're trying to answer with the analysis.
Yep.
Right. So where did Paris send this analysis to? Which?
I think it was steering committee.
Okay.
Or steering private. It might have been steering private.
It might have been steering private.
Okay. Yeah, somebody please forward it to me. I'll try finding it.
Let me find it. Paris election results, steering committee election results. That's a short version. I will find it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm seeing a very short answer there, so.
Are you on the steering private mailing list yet? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Brennan, I still don't understand why we need a goal. Like, what's the downside of not having a goal?
I think we should understand I guess what I'm saying is like, how do we know if this election was successful?
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Like, so my point is like, if it were 10% of turnout, I think we would say, well, actually, maybe this election's not legitimate because 90% of the community didn't vote. I think
Okay.
with 50%, you could say, hey, you know what, it's legitimate, but, objectively, I think that we either we send ballots out to a lot of people who are uninterested, in which case we should restrict our criteria, like Eric said, or our get out the vote wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
So we should do more communication. As I think Tim said, although then Sarah said we almost spam people. So like, but I think that's the meta question effectively that I would like us to answer is like, do we think that the election was successful and what could be improved? And I think that this election committee is going to have some process suggestions, but I think that we have more of a obligation to have the sort of meta, like, is the election serving our community question answer.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to, okay. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to take some time to kind of sit on that and think about it, just because if the stats in other communities are lower and our stats are higher, then I got to think more about, how high do we want it and why.
Right.
But the legitimacy makes sense.
So one of the things that we've been thinking about on the OpenStack side was, are we serving all the geographies properly? Are we getting votes from people in different geographies? And we tried to do a get out the vote in China and Asia this time. So how do we make sure that people from there feel that they are part of the community and not just North American electorate? There's a bunch of things that we need to do around that, but then elections is just one of those things that we need to take care of. Just the fact that we have the call at this time of the day rules out so much of the geography, right? So.
Right.
So there's a known issue marked in Paris's email, which is folks in Asia didn't understand / didn't wasn't able to translate the Condorcet voting. So they engaged the Cloud Native Computing Foundation to get a translator and sent a small bit of translated text to the parties and never heard another issue. So we did go over and above in that, but what the spread was, no idea.
Right. Yeah, I was the one who pinged Paris
perfect.
for that. Yeah. So and I sent it over to the people who came to me and said that, and apparently it was okay after that. They were able to figure that out.
Good. So for the nigh to spamming, now that I'm reading this, where we advertised and communicated 6 announcements in Thursday community meetings, more than 3 GitHub issues and pull requests in K steering and K community, 3 messages to KDev Slack with pinned info, 2 emails to KDev, 2 discuss.kates.io threads, 1 email reminder to personal voting emails, 1, technically 2 with the hiccup, ballots sent from civs to personal voting emails, and tweets from Kubernetes IO and multiple contributor accounts. I've also forwarded this whole thread, just so we have the record, into steering private now that we have DIMS on the board and Quentin has moved off.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Cool. Brennan, other than sitting on this and talking about this at the next meeting, is there anything else that you wanna do around this topic?
No, I think that's great. I really just wanted to raise it as something for people to think about. I don't have any answers. I just think that we owe it to ourselves and to the community to make sure. I mean, I guess at some level, the whole point of the election is to make sure that we are thought of as the legitimate leaders of the community. And so we have to ask the meta question of, like, does the election process provide that legitimacy?
Yeah, that's fair. You want to add that to the project board so we can keep track of that conversation? Brendan?
Sorry, I didn't realize that was to me. Sure, I will do that.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so the other question I had was, like, how do we onboard new members? We could have like a little doc on how to do that. Like, Tim introduced himself at the first meeting. We should have had that like probably at the beginning. And then we should probably assign one person from steering to get the new people on the mailing lists, and maybe walk them through like how our process works, like before the first meeting. Are there any other things that I'm missing? Y'all bootstrapping people probably have an idea about this more than me.
So Aaron sent an email to the steering private saying that he would write up what he did for me.
Oh, perfect.
That kind of worked before the meeting started. But then next cycle, we are going to have the additional problem where a lot more people are peeling off and fewer people coming in.
Yeah.
So that's the worry there.
So maybe we should make sure that our processes are well documented.
Yeah.
So also I think everybody responded on the meeting or doodle for December's meeting. Is Friday seems to be good with everyone. So are we good with having a 1-day thing, or do we still want to do like a 2-day event for us?
What about Thursday night dinner and conversations, and then Friday the broader meeting?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
I think some people couldn't make that time.
Yeah.
Tim, you were going to say something?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. So we can do that. All right, let's go through the board.
Michelle, were you going to share your board? Share the screen?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any updates on the documentation sunset procedure for SIGs and working groups item?
Before we get to that, there was a blocked item in the other list.
Yeah.
We were supposed to do like some type of blog to finish off the elections.
Oh,
I was waiting on Brendan. It says Brendan.
No, I think that's done. I think we said on the thread that we were happy to delegate to the election committee, and I saw a note from Paris saying it was queued, and I think it's going out on Friday.
Okay.
Should we just close this issue then?
So I think that can be closed. Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
that's blocked. I think there's a thread on Kubernetes, either steering or private. I can't remember which one, but that should be done.
Brendan, I think it's going out on Monday. Paris sent on one more email saying that Friday might be too late. I mean, Friday.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Perfect. But it's queued, and it's written and queued, and it's gonna go.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, back to this sunset procedures for SIGs and working groups. What was going on here?
So I have a bit of background. There was,
I
think cluster ops was the precursor for this, where they were a SIG and they kind of disbanded.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't necessarily own code, but one of the things that we identified is that if they did own code, we don't have a process by which we would, attic the code or divest involvement, or what happens, right? What happens if a SIG disbands, but there's still code, right? So we don't actually have a process or a procedure to deal with that.
Is there already discussion going on that?
Not really. It was more of a meta topic. Like SIGs that didn't own code, it was easy to sunset them. We just kind of put an arbitrary criteria in place. It's pretty arbitrary, but we should probably formalize it.
Yeah.
What it means to disband, because eventually over time, there's probably should be an amalgamation of SIGs and disbanding. So like as like cloud provider, for example, if there's ever this ownership structure change for cloud providers, we should probably enumerate what it means to get subsumed either by a larger SIG or to disband this SIG entirely.
So there's a note in the issue that Paris and George are going to take this up post-election. So I think it's just a matter of pinging them again to get some docs.
Okay. I can ping them about this one. Will y'all put an action item for me on the docs?
Should we move that to blocked waiting? Because it's not really in progress.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, formalize subprojects. Let's see what that. Let's see. Do we not have a document already on that?
We do.
Okay.
I think there was like meta things about ownership of subproject and roles and blah, blah, blah. I have to read through this entirety. The length, I don't know all the details.
Okay. It seems like the people that are working on that aren't here today, so we can just have them update us next time. Oh yeah, document how working groups should be formed. This was a big one from last time. Does anybody know if that got merged? Oh yeah. Hey, so we were supposed to edit what existed, or the pull request that was in flight. Let me go find that. So then whatever happened after, Brennan, did you get your edits in?
So the last time I looked, and I have to admit, I haven't looked in like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. The comments hadn't been addressed, but I can go and double check. Phil, that Rock was the one who owned it, but I'll double check again today to see if they were addressed.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's go through this. Okay, so I think that was the only thing, right? Like that you had your comments of once you address them, then we'll be good to go there. Codify steering committee liaisons. Was Aaron on this one? It looks like he was. I don't have an update on this. Does anybody else have an update?
I think this is just going through the charter.
Yeah, this was for the charter, and then were we going to use this list as the formal list to be the liaisons for the SIG itself long term as well? I don't remember coming to that conclusion. But I
Yeah,
think
the only update I have in this is Aaron replaced Quinton's name with my name. So he switched the two.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, so we need to figure out what we're actually going to do on that. And it seems like Aaron's on that issue, so we can ask him.
This is there's a meta problem of like we only have a certain number of charters in place,
Mm-hmm.
and we were supposed to try and get these charters in place going forwards. I don't know what kind of enforcement we wanted to do
Yeah.
going forwards. It doesn't really talk about like, you know, I know we sent out the email a long time ago and some people have submitted them, and most of the ones have been merged that we've reviewed and gone back and forth with, but there's a bunch of ones that haven't even submitted a PR, right?
Yeah, I think we were holding back for some reason, and I think maybe it was we were just busy with the election or something. So maybe we should push for like all charters to be in and reviewed by the end of the year as like a deadline.
But how the question that we always have is like, what carrots and what sticks do we have to incentivize that, and what enforcement do we have to, you know, prevent people or, you know, to make sure that people do get it in, or there's some type of consequence that we can enforce afterwards.
Cancel Zoom accounts. I don't know.
I
No,
don't know. To me, some of the
I'm just
SIGs
kidding.
that are missing charters are some of our most coding prolific SIGs. So it seems like we could, maybe we just attend one of those SIG meetings and say, hey guys, you know, please do this. It doesn't take that long. But just on the issue, it seems like a few of these stand out as being not an issue of like lack of people who could do this.
Yeah, I think it's just lack of awareness because it's been a while since we reminded them.
Well, it's an incentive, like it's the carrot and stick problem, right? Like there's no incentive for them to spend the time to do it when they've already have 10,000 other things to do, so it gets dropped off the list. But
Right.
that's stuff like that will always occur unless it becomes a priority for some other reason, which is usually the stick, right? So unless we have some incentive structure or some motivation and enforcement, I don't know how you force SIGs to create their own charters, right?
Tim, I remember there was some discussion about if there are incoming org requests, like a new repository, maybe we'll hold off on that for SIGs that don't have a charter yet. So that'll force them.
Yes,
That's one.
That was the one of the carrots.
Yeah. Or the stick, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, but for the people who don't need new repos, what would the incentive?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good one though. Other than, I don't know, freezing Zoom account seems really intense. Blocking merge privileges, I don't know. It all just seems really intense. I don't want to be like the mean group of people or anything that like, you know, forces you to do something, but we do need these done. So I don't know.
I think whatever penalty needs to be rational is what the actual charter being merged means, right? Like, so you don't want a penalty that is ridiculous relative to the value of the charter itself. So I think you can't expand the potential scope of what your SIG thinks it had for now on getting a new repo. Like that's maybe something you could evaluate, and that would maybe drop the list down, and then maybe the mere
also can't
understanding of that would get other people to handle their behaviors differently.
we need enforcement of that though. So like we need to talk to those who manage the K8's org group to say that any new repo requests that don't have a charter filed for a SIG will get denied until, you know, a further date. We need to have some type of enforcement action to make that occur. Otherwise, it's just, you know, we say this in a group and there's no consequence.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like before we do that, we should just reach out to each SIG that's missing again and personally just be like, hey, can I get this? Before we get a heavy hand, honestly.
No, I totally agree. I think that's the right way to deal with it. But we do, at some point, people will ignore us until they can't, right? That's just the nature of distributed governance.
How about we tie it to a release cadence and say that before 113 ships, we need to line these things up. That'll be better than a date.
There were two things. Was like no features to GA. That was another one too, right? Like
yeah.
you can't GA a feature or the new repos.
Yeah, that's good. Is that already in place? Because that's a really good one.
No, we'd have to talk with folks like the release team.
Okay.
Or the release team who doesn't have a charter in place.
Right. So let's start with them.
Okay.
Or maybe you can't open a feature issue, or add it to a milestone until you have that. But frankly, I think I feel like a lot of these, if we just reach out again, we can get a better response.
Yeah, I agree.
So
who would like to reach out?
Maybe each of the people that are next to like that liaison, we have that liaison spreadsheet. So if your name is next to a charter, like just go through sometime before the end of this week, all of us should go through that spreadsheet. If we're assigned to a SIG that doesn't already have a charter, reach out to them, and then you know, you're responsible for your own SIGs. And then in the meantime, we can also create a list of things in case that doesn't pan out. We've already talked through some ideas, so we can start making a list around that.
I've got a nice little list of carrots versus sticks.
Perfect.
Does anybody have the link to the spreadsheet of charters?
Yeah, let me get you that.
Thank you. Just drop it onto the...
I can drop it onto the doc too. It sounds also like a lot of the stuff that we've just had in flight has kind of been either completed or we're kind of further along. So maybe we should do that exercise maybe like next time of splitting up into the subgroups again and picking what chunks of work we want to do. I know some of my items I'm rolling off that. And just going through this list, it seems apparent that we've kind of gotten a good ways through.
Yeah. Plus, we need to look at the PRs too, right? And merge them.
Which ones?
So, is the primary liaison responsible for following up on the PR and make sure it merges?
Yeah. Each like if you're primary and secondary, we need you to review the pull request and LGTM it, and then it gets merged.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool.
I think I had SIG instrumentation, SIG scheduling were the ones I was chasing down, and then both of those have now merged. So if we want to rebalance, like I'm open to picking up one of these extra SIGs. I was looking at the charter meta issue. Maybe I'm missing the spreadsheet, but that's the one that I've been tracking before.
Oh yeah, I think we were supposed to be using the meta issue, but that information was being taken from the spreadsheet anyway. So there were two sources of truth, sort of, and
yeah, and I had been updating the meta issue as they went in. So I'm more than happy to pick up some of the ones here. I guess, I don't know, Dims, if you just took everything that was Quentin on how we rotate assignment or not, but if there's no objection, I can go through and help be a nagbot.
Absolutely, Derek. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just feel free to pick up whichever.
A nag? Did you say nagbot?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
I really like that.
It's basically what we were describing ourselves as.
I
Okay.
think given in absence of an actual, it might be worthwhile in absence of somebody actually making sure that they're the primary liaison to just, if you're going to add yourself, maybe add yourself to the armchair section, and then poke the person who's the primary liaison to see if they've done anything, if they've reached out.
Oh yeah, that's a really good idea. I'm good with that. So cool. I'll add myself to a few extra too. Okay, so that's the charts meta issue, which is the next item on the project board. It sounds like we kind of got through that.
Covered it.
Okay, great. So then the last item that we have in progress is ensure all Kubernetes repos follow the same contributing structure. And I'm not on that one. Does anybody else have context on that?
Chris Anachik opened it. It says some CNCF members have higher maintenance legal departments where they require a bit more documentation in repos regarding contributing criteria. For example, there's a Kubernetes contributor guide that mandates that the CNCF CLA be signed, but it seems to apply to all code, but has a big disclaimer at the top, which makes some legal departments wary. Some of the repos have contributing.md files with clear processes, which is good. Others point to the contributor guide, which is okay, but many others have no such file. Can we ensure every proper Kubernetes project has a contributing.md with terms clearly spelled out? And Brandon and Aaron are assigned to this at the moment.
Okay, cool. And I just went through that thread. It seems like they're pretty active on it, and there's a bunch of contributing MD docs that have been added. So,
So it is in progress.
Very much in progress.
As advertised.
Yeah. So we need to rebalance us as a steering committee and pick up some new items and figure out what chunks of work to prioritize next. Oh my gosh, I sound like a PM. So how do we want to do that? What do we think is the next big thing that we want to pick up?
So I have an open item that I just want to put on our agenda for a future meeting, because there continue to be discussions around DCO versus CLA. And the Google lawyers are very opposed to DCO, and they have really good reasons. Namely, there is no case law that says that DCO actually works, and some of this is grinding its way through European courts right now, but there is no ruling yet. So I would love to bring one of the Google lawyers, his name is Max Sills, to join us, talk for 15 or 20 minutes or maybe less, answer questions, and get a good understanding of why we are so stridently in favor of the CLAs, and try to bring consensus to this, because I would like to be able to shut it down in the community before it rises to a greater fervor. That said, we also have work being done inside the Linux Foundation by their new head of platforms to make an improved CLA experience. So this should take away some of the pain that we're experiencing, and they were going to have a proof of concept ready at the end of this week. So I would love to take this DCO versus CLA discussion and move it to in progress, and start it as our next committee meeting, and do that.
Sarah,
Yes.
I pasted a link on the chat. I don't know where
Okay.
you want to put it. The Legal Discuss mailing list in ASF.
Yes, okay.
Having the same discussion there about is CCLA, ICLA really effective? Does it actually work?
Okay.
And part of the thing there is any officer in a company can bind the whole company with a CCLA. But then what does ASF actually have to do to, ASF right now says, okay, you are giving me a paperwork, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to file it. And if you ask for me again, I'll give it to you. That's all they do. They don't do anything else with it. And the ICLA, the problem is every jurisdiction, it's totally different. So, that's what the discussion is going on about the efficacy of the CCLA and ICLA. And if it actually, if the companies, it's the perception of the company versus the actual stuff that is happening on the foundation side. We have to reconcile that. If it actually is effective in what it is advertised to do. And I know that have the Google lawyers talked to, say, the IBM folks who started the CCLA stuff in Apache, or Mark Radcliffe, for example?
I am sure that they have talked to a number of them.
Okay, now they're going to convince us now, right? Okay.
This is the point. Like this was a sticking point when creating the Kubernetes, what you're creating the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. Like Google actually said, no, if we move to a DCO, we will not put Kubernetes in this. So it is a big enough deal that the Google lawyers are very, very opposed to it. So I want us to figure out those reasons, go through other prior art. I've already sent the Apache link off to the lawyer that I'm going to invite to talk to us, and then we can have a really interesting discussion, I think. But the point that he keeps coming back to is there is legal precedent and case law around CLAs and CCLAs, and there is none with DCO, which means until somebody else figures this out, we don't want to play with it.
I understand that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the super nutshell of it, and he'll talk about the rest of it. So I will schedule that up for next time if no one has any concerns about that.
I
just want a voice which is different from the Google lawyer voice too.
Please do. We can. I mean, if you want
I don't know who to call. That's
right. It should be the Linux Foundation, right? Like it should be the lawyers that work with the CNCF. So should we also have them on the same call?
We could potentially do that.
Dual.
They are the ones who are having to litigate this around Linux in Europe right now. So they have to be saying that this is viable. Otherwise, they are risking Linux. So I don't know that that's an unbiased. Tim, that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an unbiased view on it.
Right. But then let me flip it around. Why I asked for the DCO was, first of all, right now we are at a phase where there is a lot of people who want to contribute to Kubernetes, but then at a certain point, it's going to start going flatter, right? Or it's going to go down the curve. So we need to start encouraging drive-by contributions where they are not coming from a structured team, so they don't have people who they can ping and get their PR in just in time for the release and the last week before the release is cut. So they don't have those kinds of stuff. And there are instances about PRs and issues dying on the vine because they're not from a structured team. So I was mostly interested in trying to see how much of it is happening right now, and if the DCO will help. Not per se the DCO problem itself, but how much contributions are we leaving, on the floor versus if we figured out a way to encourage those kinds of people to work with us.
So I think that ends up being a meta conversation of, do we want drive-by contributors as well?
Right. Yes, exactly. Right. That was the motivation for the question.
Right. And you just tripped into a point that Google has a very hard line on. So
yeah, got it.
Okay, so then it sounds like, do we want to have the meta conversation before we have the lawyer conversation? like, do we want drive-by contributors, and how would we improve the likelihood of that? One of the things that I hope we'll be doing is changing the workflow with the CLA and CCLA through the Linux Foundation, and to make that easier. Because as an individual, you can be like, checkbox, yes, I can do that. But it should not be as messed up as it is. So do we want to have the meta conversation? Do we want to have the lawyer conversation?
I want to have lawyer conversation because I want to be like informed
Okay.
for the meta.
Then I will schedule it up for the 24th.
Okay, sounds good.
And then we can have the meta conversation. We can be informed and then have the meta conversation.
And as I understand it, you can have the DCO and the CLA. So I would really love to ask the lawyer questions about that.
It's sort of the belt and suspenders, but sure.
Okay, and we should definitely get the other. Having the conversation with this lawyer, this Google lawyer, makes sense, but we are part of the CNCF. We should absolutely get their perspective too from their lawyer, even if it's not biased. Right. I mean, like, if we're part of that foundation, we should definitely do that. So that said, the choice is the project's choice. Okay. Yeah.
So like I've already had this conversation with the CNCF a couple of times, and it is a project level choice whether you want the CLA or the DCO. Okay. Okay. Do you want me to try and pull a lawyer and set up the true full-blown lawyer fight that Timothy wants?
It could be like,
yeah, I would like to see that.
It's kind of fun.
I'll pop some popcorn. Are we ready?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
CNCF lawyer.
I'll steal some Microsoft snacks.
Is Andy...
I separately pinged Microsoft's OSS legal to see if we have an opinion here too.
We do. I've talked to them, and yes, we do. And
what's your opinion?
They don't like the CL. I mean, they don't like the DCO at all.
Yeah. Okay.
They have other reasons too, so I'm gonna be having them as well.
We could, would you want to bring in the Microsoft lawyers too?
I think that's a lot of lawyers. We should just do maybe the Google and the CNCF, and then just like loop our legal people in on the conversation in case they have something to add, like in an email thread.
There's a non-zero chance that once we get one set of lawyers in, that there will be a conversation where others have to have lawyers if they participate in the conversation.
Yeah, you're right. So this is more of a presentation, right, on the pros and cons, and not so much a getting advice.
Yes. I think that would be a presentation on their perspective, or we could just all lawyer up.
That's true. Then we're setting precedent, though, that people.
No, I was joking.
Okay. Okay.
But to be fair, this is exactly why legal committees exist, to come back and say, because everybody shows up paired with their favorite lawyer, and off you go, and then you have a conversation. And I sit on the legal committee for the CNCF. I sit on the legal committee for Linux Foundation.
Yeah.
So this is how these things start.
Okay. So.
At least we are not writing a new license here, which
good God, no.
Which was one of the things I did before. So yeah.
Don't. Okay. YER presentations on positions, pros and cons. Okay. I will see what I can do. I will put a try to bring Max to the meeting, find a CNCF lawyer, get presentations on positions of pros and cons. All right. So that was my offer to do work from the list of things that we might do work on.
Okay, sounds good. Does anybody have any other items? Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have any other items on the backlog that they want to pick up to be in progress, or things that we should call attention to and make priority?
Since we're talking about lawyers, how about the third-party dependencies? Raise that as.
What issue is that?
Bottom of the backlog.
Oh, yeah.
This is from Chris too.
So I thought the CNCF was supposed to take charge of, I thought they were hiring somebody to do an audit and to figure out the details of that. I know there was a separate tool that they were using and everything else too. So I have no idea what the state of that was.
Let's get
Yeah.
an update from whoever is running.
So I think this is he has found dependencies that are flagged as potential issues. So they have done the audit, and they're now asking us to find the feasibility of switching them.
Oh, maybe I should look at where exactly this is.
So there's another thing in here that, yeah, just dependencies. That's a rat hole.
So it sounds like we need to get an update and figure out what we need, what we can replace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We haven't had an update on this from June 7th. Yeah, I can work this, Michelle.
Do you have, if you need any contact information or intros or anything like that, let me know and I can set that up for you.
Yeah, you can assign this to me. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Alrighty. We have a few more minutes left. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up? Okay. All right, yeah.
I've got one, which is view, ratify, and promote the Kubernetes values. Have we not reviewed, ratified, and merged them?
I remember giving an LGTM on that.
July 11th, there's a YouTube, no one. Yeah, I will. He's got a YouTube video in here. Okay, I will chase that one.
Okay, sounds good. I thought there was a pull request and that we had merged that somewhere.
I thought we had two.
Okay.
In steering, I thought.
Okay. Are we doing like anything? I think you had presented the values, Sarah, at KubeCon. Is there? Do we have any plans at KubeCon to like do anything? Maybe meet with the community or anything like that? Do we want to do anything like that? Okay.
Have a steering committee question and answer period?
Yeah, or just like, yeah, I mean, how do people, yeah, it'd be nice to like meet with people in person. I don't know if anybody's doing an update or anything like at KubeCon, or if that has ever been discussed or is even needed, anything like that.
I think it's worthwhile for the health of the community. So, I mean, we did it informally, like at the first contributor summit, and I don't think it's a bad thing to have it at the contributor summit because it seems more applicable than the broader community, because these are people who are actively engaged. So maybe we should. I know that Paris is setting up the contributor summit. Her and George have been working on that. So perhaps we can do a drive-by and ask them if we can do a quick, spiel on or Q&A on that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that. Let's do that. Do you want to take that since that's your idea?
Okay. I'll go talk with George and Paris and see what they say.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks. All right. Anything else that we want to pick up? Have we organized office hours yet?
So this has been the Meet the Contributors Steering Committee edition that Paris has been running.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to have like a formal office hours on the weeks that we weren't meeting for some reason. Were we not going to do that?
We threw in the Meet the Contributors Q&A as sort of a let's not fragment this further.
Okay.
So I think that finishes it.
Okay.
If people think we should do something else, that's a different conversation.
Okay, cool.
And I seem to have stopped taking notes somewhere. I'm sorry.
No worries. This is recorded.
Yeah.
So
how or when do people come to steering committee? Do we have like a page or some information that we share? Sometimes it feels like, one of us is doing something and we bring it to the committee, right? So, but do we have like a escalation process where things bubble up to us, or how do we have it documented somewhere?
Yeah, it's in the steering repo, Kubernetes/steering. If you see anything that's missing, let me know. But the general process is you can email the steering mailing list if you want to mention anything or bring anything up to the steering committee. If the thing that you want to bring up is sensitive, then there is a steering-private mailing list that people can mail.
Okay.
Technically, you can open up an issue on the backlog, but other than Jason, maybe George and Paris, I haven't really seen anyone do that. And I don't think that's something we advertise. So the mailing lists are like kind of the first, the main points where people can reach out and chat with us. Am I missing anything else?
Especially if there is, beef between SIGs or if there is problems with people.
Yeah, we were dealing with some code of conduct issues also before, but now we have a code of conduct committee, so they have their own separate mailing list, conduct.kubernetes.io too. But yeah, we'll obviously escalate those as well.
So apparently we do have a session at the end of the Contributor Summit, basically for Q&A, and there's a link to the Contributor Summit that I will put in the steering channel.
Okay, cool. So we should also prep for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. We can maybe discuss that at the next meeting. I'll put that on the agenda. Somebody do 10 plus 14, 24. Okay. Cool. Any last items before we hop off? Wow, this has been a smooth steering meeting.
I closed 3 issues.
You closed 3 issues? Oh my gosh. Yeah, it really does seem